Well, the earth is shaking in Southern California. At least 30 quakes striking since Tuesday night. Just yesterday, 4 mid-sized quakes hit. They were centered near and around Orange County. The strongest, a magnitude 4.5. You definitely can feel that. And it was felt across a wide swath of that region. Recent studies have suggested that a swarm of smaller quakes sometimes comes before a big quake.
A pair of strong earthquakes, both measuring more than 6.3 on the Richter scale, has leveled at least 6 villages in northwestern Iran and damaged dozens of others. Iranian state TV has reported a heavy death toll.
In breaking news coming in, a strong earthquake with a magnitude of 7.5 struck off the eastern Russian coast to the north of Japan, but no tsunami warning was issued by Japanese authorities.
On this Sunday, a seismic swarm is causing extensive damage just to our east, and all this shaking is rattling nerves around San Diego County. This swarm is made up of more than 200 quakes, 2 of which were as strong as 5.3 and 5.5. Oh, God.
The house is totally down.
A powerful earthquake struck El Salvador this morning. It was a 7.3 magnitude quake off the coast about 100 miles southeast of San Salvador. Several aftershocks were felt, including one measuring 5.4. A tsunami warning was posted.
A tsunami warning is in effect for the Philippines after a massive 7.6 earthquake struck off its eastern coast early Friday morning.
Tsunami warning for Japan, Taiwan and several Pacific islands. The warning remains in place, though, for Indonesia.
A huge earthquake struck near Costa Rica today, setting off a tsunami watch. The 7.6 quake struck off the coast about 95 miles away from the capital of San Jose. The coastlines of Brazil, Mexico, and most of the Caribbean island are under a tsunami warning.
A series of earthquakes hitting southwestern China, killing at least 43 people. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, the 4 quakes ranged from a magnitude 4.8 to 5.6. Chinese media reports the quakes damaged more than 20,000 homes. We'll continue monitoring that situation for you. And also overnight, a 3.5 magnitude earthquake rattles West Hollywood. It is the second this week that a quake hits that Southern California there.
Residents in China's southwestern megacity of Chongqing have been puzzled by this strange sight this week. These images of the Yangtze River, the longest in China, have been surfacing since Wednesday. This stretch of the river around Chongqing looks like it's been dyed blood red.
It's a giant wall of dust 2,500 feet high.
The giant dust storm that blanketed Phoenix was so thick, so otherworldly, people throughout the city took out their cameras to record it as it coats the city, turning daylight into an unhealthy brown haze.
An area of Arctic sea ice the size of Canada and Alaska combined has been lost. That's according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. An animation released by the U.S. agency shows the daily average sea ice between 1979 and 2012. And for the first time since satellite observations began, ice cover is less than 4 million square kilometers. Scientists say the drastic decline is a strong sign of long-term global warming.
An 8-foot sinkhole opening up in the parking lot. Driver of that car, not surprisingly, a little stunned.
NASA sent us some remarkable pictures today of a solar flare. A massive explosion on the surface of the sun last Friday shot a tongue of fire 500,000 miles into space. That sent a cloud of highly charged particles toward the Earth.
Astronomers got the shot of a lifetime last night when something impacted the planet of Jupiter.
The fireball was only visible for about 2 seconds, if that, but astronomers say it is significant.
An image that has the astronomy world buzzing of a huge explosion on the surface of Jupiter.
So I'm imagining that size is pretty rare. This type of thing, Brandon, doesn't happen a lot because everybody's all on Twitter and talking about it.
Right, no, yeah, you're right. It is rare, and it's especially rare to catch.
When we begin tonight with breaking news, on the anniversary of the 9/11 attacks, Americans and American symbols in 2 Arab countries tonight are under attack by radical Islamist forces.
That left the U.S. ambassador and 3 other Americans dead.
American embassies around the world have been put on alert, warned against demonstrations and violent attacks.
Overnight, U.S. Navy forces began moving 2 U.S. destroyers armed with cruise missiles to the coast of Libya, part of the heightened state of alert across the region. This is all still very volatile.
A foul odor drifted through Southern California today. The rotten egg smell spread across the region from the Inland Empire to the Los Angeles Basin and into the San Fernando Valley.
Folks from Palm Springs all the way to the Simi Valley could smell it, and they describe it as a rotten egg smell, you know, like a sulfur type smell, and a thick haze accompanied it. As a matter of fact, as you look right behind me, you could barely see those mountains this morning.
Hot magma, a volcanic eruption leading to clouds of ash in San Diego County. Comments from the U.S. Geological Survey are sparking questions about a scenario you may not have heard about.
Thousands of Guatemalans have been forced from their homes because of an erupting volcano. Ash and lava have been spewing from Fuego.
More than 30,000 people have already been told to get out of the area, and hundreds of others are on alert.
I also want to take a moment to address the video circulating on the internet that has led to these protests in a number of countries. Let me state very clearly, and I hope it is obvious, that the United States government had absolutely nothing to do with this video.
A wave of violent protest is happening right now across the Middle East and Africa.
They were chanting "Death to America" as they ripped down the American flag and set it on fire.
The fires of anti-Americanism are burning around the world tonight, all sparked by a film called The Innocence of Muslim. The U.S. State Department is dealing with a full-blown crisis. Some were small pockets, chanting, flag burning. Others exploded into deadly riots. But if we put all the demonstrations on a map, you can see how the anger has spread like a global plague. Over 30 countries saw protests today, and now a total of 6 American posts have come under attack. In Tunisia, 2 protesters were killed by local police as an embassy building burned. 3 more were shot down in Sudan before the angry crowds turned on the German embassy. And in Lebanon, it was American restaurants that felt the crowd's wrath.
Chinese protesters took to the streets for a second day to denounce Japan over a territorial dispute. Some in Shenzhen are even calling for a bloodbath.
The number of dead over an amateur film deriding Islam is now more than 50, just 1 week since the protests began.
It's no longer about burning down US embassies in Muslim countries. In Europe, they're calling for holy war.
Indonesia's Mount Gamalama erupted in dramatic fashion on Sunday, spewing ash into the atmosphere, covering the nearby city of Ternate. Driving conditions in Ternate have become dangerous due to the smog caused by the ash.
An Australian filmmaker has captured what's being described as a fire tornado on camera. The extremely rare phenomenon occurred in the outback near Alice Springs.
It's a twister which has sent even weather experts spinning. Filmmaker Chris Tagney, who recorded the extraordinary sight, witnessed flames spiralling 30 metres high, generating noise like a fighter jet. It's being described as a fire tornado.
A man is claiming that he's filmed video of UFOs above his Melbourne home. He says he saw the fast-moving, colourful object flying in the sky last Tuesday night, and it was briefly joined by a second object.
And I've got to affirm that this object was not stationary, so it was no planet or star or anything like that. It behaved in no manner of an aircraft that I've ever seen here on Earth.
Now, people across the UK have reported seeing bright objects in the sky last night, thought to be a meteor shower. There were sightings in Northern Ireland, parts of central Scotland, the Midlands and East Anglia as well.
Tales of fire, as some listeners to BBC Radio have been describing tonight. And you can see there's several there moving slowly along the sky.
It was like Independence Day. It must have been 10 or 15 huge pieces on fire.
It was something pretty large breaking up in the atmosphere. I've seen shooting stars and meteor showers before, but this was much larger, much more colourful.
Brisbane was blanketed in thick fog for several hours this morning.
The whiteout spanned most of the state's coastline, stretching from the border as far north as the tropics. This was Brisbane at sunrise. The skyline is almost completely covered.
All right, we've got some breaking news involving Spain. There is word that there are riots going on in Spain over austerity.
Yeah, this was a planned protest. It's turned out to be bigger than they expected and more violent than they expected. They're trying to surround the parliament.
Homes, businesses, schools and farmland underwater after the heaviest rainfall in Nigeria for 40 years.
Britain has been hit by its worst September storms in 30 years after weeks of rain fell in just a few hours. Floodwaters swept through towns and villages, forcing hundreds of people from their homes. Rough seas whipped up foam, turning the water into whitewash that swamped a fishing village in Scotland. Dozens of flood warnings are in place.